Welcome, everybody. My name is Air, head influencer at Inti Syndicates. And at Inti Syndicates, our mission is to avail e-commerce, digital marketing, and social media marketing solutions to clever and rising influencers, such as yourself. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably interested in learning a bit more about what are some of the metrics or insights, as Instagram calls them, that a rising influencer would want to track. As we know, the things that we track in life end up growing. And so when we find specific metrics to track, we'll end up growing these metrics. And these specific metrics will end up growing, whether it be your personal brand, whether it be your business, whether it be your creator page. Now, before we get into the actual insights themselves, I'm going to talk very briefly about some of the different profile types on Instagram. There's three different profile types, one being, or account types is what they call them, one being a personal account, second one being a business account, and the third one being, I believe it is a creator account. Now, each of these accounts have different metrics and so on associated with them. For the purposes of this video, I will be talking about a business account, but the insights tend to correlate and they tend to be very similar. In other words, it doesn't really matter if you are a business account, if you're using a business account versus a personal account or a creator account. They're very similar in the sense of the metrics that one may use. So I'm also making the assumption that you've made an Instagram page at this point in time. If you have not made an Instagram page at this point in time, make an Instagram page. All right, cool. So I'm going to pull up one of my accounts that I have here. And the first thing you want to go to is, I got my phone, handy dandy phone out. You want to go to your, what is this called? Your profile page, right? So I'm using Inti Syndicates. This is the business page. You're going to want to click on the bottom right-hand corner, and this will be your profile page. So click there. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see three bars right under, if you're using a phone or an iPad, right under where the battery is. I highly encourage you to use Instagram overall on your phone itself versus on the computer. It's a lot easier to use it on the phone. And Instagram is more so designed for mobile usage versus desktop. So that's just a little piece that you will take and use. All right, cool. So now we got three lines. We click on the three lines in the upper right-hand corner, just under our battery sign. And then you'll get a bunch of different, you'll get a list of different things. This is kind of what the list will look like. So purpose of this video, we will be talking about insights. Insights is the third one down. And again, I have a business profile, so there's a slight difference. All right, cool. So when we get to insights, it has a few different features on it, right? It talks about content, activity, and audience. I'm gonna go through this very briefly today, and we're just gonna talk about some of the key insights or metrics that a rising influencer or business may want to track. So we look at the overview, and you can find out more about each of these. There's always like a little information symbol. So like overview, for example, it has here, and if you click on the little eye, it tells you what does overview mean. So overview is just giving you insights of the total number of posts and stories this week. And that's what overview goes with that. And that's content overview. Again, this is a business account. It will be slightly different for a personal and a, it's escaping me right now, a brand account, I believe, or a creator account. If we look at activity talks, so content is on the far left, activity is in the middle. This talks about discovery, interactions, and then we have audience on the far right. Now, as a rising influencer, you're probably thinking the most important thing is how many followers do I have? And why do you think I would say this? Because that's what everyone is so interested in, is the follower number. And yes, this is an important metric, but it's not the most important metric for a rising and aspiring influencer. In fact, I would argue that having higher engagement is a lot more valuable than having high follower numbers. Because when you have an engaged audience, you have an audience that's willing to communicate with you, interact with you, and on your public feed specifically. And what that builds over time is you build a community of people who see you as an expert in an expert in a particular field. Now, if you're a business, that's huge, right? Like, for example, with me and Inti Syndicates, we're in the business of Instagram, and Instagram, not only Instagram coaching, but also Instagram growth, right? Helping businesses that are poised and ready for growth to actually grow their followers and really become big. But that's not the purpose of this, right? The purpose of this is to really make sure that we focus on the metrics that rising influencers would want to check into. So everyone's so obsessed with followers, and it is important for sure, but it's not the most important. So when I look at the insights for a business specifically, what I'm looking at as an expert in the field is I want to see discovery, right? Like I want to know how many people are actually coming across my content. Now, discovery, if you click on the little eye, it talks about there's a few different measurements of discovery, right? Like it talks about reach and impressions, and the distinction between the two. Reach obviously is not, it's an estimate, versus impressions is the number of times that it's been seen. So reach is more so like how many unique accounts have seen it, right? So let's say there's two people, two accounts that are looking at it. Account number one looks at it, that's it, they don't do anything. Account number two looks at it, looks at another post, and looks at it again, that's it, right? The reach would be two, because in this scenario, there was two accounts, and each account looked at it. Even though the second account looked at it twice, the reach was only two. And again, that's an estimate, right? It's not a specific exact number. Whereas impressions is the number of times it's been looked at overall. So that doesn't include, so in that case, the impressions number would be three, because account one looked at it once, account two looked at it twice. All right, cool. And it's important to know what your discovery looks like over time. Now, and this will be a topic for another video because it would just be too much all in this one video. But overall, I encourage, if you're growing an Instagram account, to at the very, very least be posting once a week. Very at the base minimum, you know? More often than not, really the influencers that I see start taking off and whatnot are posting at least once a day, oftentimes more than once a day. And that's for not only for personal accounts, as I mentioned, but also for creator accounts and business accounts. So ideally, the more you post, the more traffic you get. The more traffic you get, the more you can end up converting this traffic into sales for your online business. All right, cool. There's also interactions. Interactions includes profile visits and website clicks. Now, one might be like, well, why would I want to track interactions? Interactions are big because it shows, again, this is another measurement of engagement, right? So if someone goes to your profile itself, that shows that they're in some way, shape, or form engaged. No one just goes to a profile just to go to a profile, you know? They're in some way, shape, or form, there was a reason, there was a thought that came before, oh, let me check out this profile. And so when we look at profile visits, it's a measurement of how many times are you almost getting into someone's mind or getting into someone's mind, really. Website clicks is a more detailed metric. Someone sees, let's say someone goes to your profile, then like, oh, this is kind of cool. The next natural step would be a website click. So obviously profile visits tend to be a higher number, but website clicks tend to be a bit lower. And these are all measured week to week. You can measure them based on different time periods. So that's that. Lastly, yeah, we'll get into this. Lastly, what's really important is to look at audience, and audience insights are huge. Not so much in the beginning for purposes of selling. And when I say selling, I really mean like giving to your audience, right? When we're providing content to our audience, I consider that a form of selling because you're giving them content to consume. And so there's a transaction, a sale, if you will. Anyways, audience insights are really important for not only tracking what's the overall growth per week, right? That's what you can see here. Again, audience is all the way on the far right. You can see growth, But you can also see who is the demographic, where they're located, what's the age brackets, and then what's the gender, and when are the followers on. Now, this type of content or this type of data is really important in the sense of tracking growth. Obviously, that's something we're interested in if we are with the specific intention of growing our accounts. Yes, we want to track how many followers though are we growing per week. It's really helpful to know, where is your following located, right? So are they primarily in the country that you reside in? Are they primarily overseas? And this changes from place to place. It depends on your account and the type of content that you're putting out. Age range is really, really huge, as well as gender, in the sense of knowing how old are the people who are following me, and are they men or women? Again, this gives us a good sense of who is our following and how to post content that they would be interested in, right? I'm not going to post something to a demographic of 18 to 24-year-olds, men and women, about AARP, right? Like, it doesn't make sense for me to post. It doesn't make sense for that account to post about the American Association of Retired People. Like, no sense whatsoever. So again, it just gives us some context as to who's consuming our content and how to use that. Gender, similar story. And then lastly, you can look at the bottom. It gives you information on followers, and when are your followers on? When are they engaging or looking at your content? This information is really, really helpful as it relates to the times that your followers are on. So if your followers are on at a specific time, maybe this is, again, depends from account to account. Maybe they're on every Sunday at noon. Maybe you want to put a post then Sunday. Okay, so in summary, what did we learn today? Well, first off, we learned what is the importance of measuring as we continue to grow our accounts, right? Again, what we measure grows. So when we take a measurement on our Instagram, we're poising ourselves for growth. Then we talked about, how do you access insights specifically within the different accounts. We talked about the different accounts: the business account, the personal account, the creator account. All have access to insights. And what's the purpose of tracking insights? So we identified where is the insights bar, clicked on it, and then we looked into the insights themselves. And then we looked through each insight type. Again, those were content, audience, and activity. We talked about the importance of, specifically for a rising influencer, to make sure that not only are you tracking followers, because at the end of the day, followers is a very important metric for us, but it's not the only important metric. Just as important is engagement, and the ways that we can measure engagement, as we talked about earlier, are not only reach and impressions, in the sense of how many people are finding our accounts, but also interactions. How many profile visits are we getting? How many website visits are we getting? Lastly, we talked about our audience and the importance of understanding our audience. When we get a better understanding of our audience, not only who they are and where they live, but when are they online, we have a good sense of what type of content to be posting for them, and what types of our content might resonate a bit more with them. That's what I got for you guys today. Beaming influence, air out. If you guys liked this video, drop a comment and let me know what you guys would be interested in hearing on the next video.